The BYU Cougars. We've been trying to get in Zach Wilson's DMs. He unfortunately isn't responding. Come on, Zach. We want to get you on the show. But Zach Wilson having a great year at quarterback.
Is it because you're a Mormon and don't believe in TV?
I don't think that's how that works, Joe.
Oh, I don't know.
So BYU 7-0. They're ranked 9th in the nation. And look, we got to think about BYU right now. They're a dark horse playoff contender. It's not just me saying that. There are ESPN analysts saying this. It would require some help. But we got to look at this objectively, Joe. And I'm wondering, do you see a legitimate scenario? Not like a fantasy world scenario that a lot of these analysts are talking about. But do you see a potential realistic scenario that BYU creeps into the playoff?
No, I do not see a legitimate scenario. The only scenario I do see is, first of all, Clemson loses this week.
Yeah.
I still think they're going to be number 4.
I agree.
Ohio State, I don't think is going to be losing a game anytime soon. Notre Dame, I don't think will be losing a game anytime soon unless it's this week. And then Alabama. I think in my opinion, unless one of those teams absolutely tanks in one game, I think the playoffs are already set.
Okay.
At this point. I mean, BYU, they can try and get in, but it's going to take a miracle to just – because those are 4 juggernauts right there, just sitting in the top 4 spots.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to take a miracle for BYU to get in.
I think it's
I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's going to be impossible.
It's not impossible. I think it's unlikely. I think there is a realistic scenario this could happen. It's just probably not going to happen. So here's the look at this. Clemson and Notre Dame play this week. If Clemson beats Notre Dame this week, which is a real possibility, although it's less certain than we initially thought, and then Notre Dame loses to them in the ACC championship game, they're out. They're not. BYU will leapfrog them. That's not a concern. Ohio State, I don't see a scenario in which they lose a game. And even if they do, I think they'd get in over BYU, assuming they win the rest of their schedule. Then you look at Georgia, Cincinnati, A&M, Florida. This is where it gets interesting. So Georgia and Florida play this week. It's basically a playoff elimination game. So one of those teams is done after tomorrow afternoon. Then they'd have to beat Alabama. So if you're BYU, you're basically rooting for Alabama to run the table. And then other than that, there's a question about how A&M will perform if they can beat them. And then Cincinnati, you come down to a Cincinnati situation where they play the hardest games on their schedule already. I just don't see them losing. So that is where I think BYU's hopes crumble. Do I think BYU can win out and put themselves in a position? Yes. I mean, I think the toughest game is tonight against Boise State, which we're about to get into and talk about. But there is a realistic scenario. It's just I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, also, they haven't played they'll play 2 ranked teams by the end of the year. It's not good for playoff spots.
Yeah. I mean, that also is a big concern, right? Because if you have a 1-loss Ohio State or you have a 1-loss Alabama or a 1-loss Clemson or a 1-loss Notre Dame, they're going to get in over them. And that's just not even a debate. So,
or 1-loss Georgia even.
Yeah, there's all of these considerations we have to take into account. So transitioning now.
Honestly, if you're in the ACC or SEC and you have 1 loss, you're going to get in.
You have a huge advantage. I would agree with you. So then transitioning into the fact, can BYU actually put themselves in a position to do this? They play Boise State, the 21st ranked team in the country on the road. It's a good Boise State team out of the Mountain West. I wouldn't say they've beaten anybody really credible yet, but it's a scary game for a BYU team that has had a few rockier games against inferior opponents. So I'm curious, Joe, what you think your prediction is for this game, and then the effects on the playoff hopes if they win. Because obviously if they lose, they're done.
I think saying a few rocky games for BYU is just horribly inaccurate. They've had 1 rocky game, and it was against UTSA.
Joe, they had some other closer games if you look at the schedule.
Yeah, I am. It's Navy 55-3, 48-7.
Yeah, Houston was kind of close, and it was actually close for a while.
Yeah, but then they blew it out of the park.
Yeah, of course. But I'm just saying. Well, I'm not saying that all these games are razor thin. I'm just saying that there are these games that are kind of tight, and then they get blown open. Regardless, it's semantics. I just want you to answer the question here.
Look, Boise State is a good team. think the only advantage they have against BYU is the color of their turf at this point. Like, hey, the color of the turf does factor in a lot on quarterbacks, abilities.
Okay.
I don't know if you know this. It's hard to throw on blue turf.
I'm sure it is.
Especially
I'm
if you
sure
have,
it
like,
is.
blue uniforms.
Also, if you're used to throwing on a normal green field, I'd imagine going to Boise State and having the field look blue
if
like an
BYU's
ocean.
in their blue uniforms, this could be hard to see.
True. I really doubt they're going to be wearing blue.
But I mean, I think if BYU doesn't win against Boise State, then yeah, their playoff hopes are done because I mean this is a win they can easily get and should get.
I think it'll be kind of close, but I have BYU pulling it out. I think that Boise State's a good football team, but Zach Wilson's a way better quarterback than Boise State's situation. I think BYU is just a better team, and I think that it might be close for a while, but I think they pull it out.